It all started with me criticizing a part of a German Dreisat. It is, it's state media, so to speak, and there was coverage on a war, basically, or the mobilization of German military. And we now have, young boys and girls who are possibly being recruited into the army. And there was a TV show on this, and there was one person on the show who said that, well, what is lacking in Germany and in Europe is the will of the parents to sacrifice their children. And that sort of was what got me into this propaganda analysis. I watched the whole episode and I took this part out and I said, well, this is an example of blatant war propaganda. This reminds me personally, and I know many people who've heard it thought the same. It reminds me of, well, the darkest times of German history, that you say, parents need to be willing to sacrifice their children again for the greater good, so to speak. And then the filmmakers, they criticized me, they approached me. I got an angry email, sort of, how dare you criticize our media coverage, and you haven't understood it at all, and you probably haven't watched it. So that was like the comments that I got. I was attacked on X as well. And I had watched the whole episode and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to make an analysis of this short film that they made, and it was like 15 minutes, and I analyzed it in detail. I uploaded it on my channel, and there was quite some feedback. I got a lot of positive feedback, a lot of emails, and it's great to see that a lot of people have understood that there is war propaganda, which is a very important first step to understanding what is going on, to be ready for this constantly ongoing battle for our hearts and minds. And I got a lot of positive feedback, and people asked me, well, could you analyze this? Could you analyze that? And I had a lot of intelligent feedback from people who are very smart, very, aware of what's happening. And they said, well, look at this, please look at that. And well, another request that I had was that I should please look at the German news, the biggest news that we have in Germany. That is the Tagesschau, that is broadcast at 8 p.m. And it has roughly 10 million people on average every day who watch the Tagesschau. So I said to myself, well, I haven't watched it for a long time, because it just gives you a bad mood. You have like 50 minutes, death, destruction, corruption, war, crimes, whatever. And it's not healthy, I'd say. It's not good for your mood. And so I said to myself, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to watch 1 week of Tagesschau, and I'm going to try and use sort of my glasses, my analytical tools for detecting propaganda. And I had to stop after 3 days of watching the Tagesschau. So we had 45 minutes of these news coverages, because there was so much material that I thought, okay, if I'm going to do 1 whole week, it's going to be too much. And so that was the second analysis. And once again, feedback was very positive. And what I could show, and that was for me also a surprise, not having watched the Tagesschau for such a long time, was that how cleverly, but also how blatant. Yeah, and how blatant the war propaganda actually is in the most viewed German news broadcast that we have in this country. And that's supposed to be a neutral German information tool for the public to be aware, to be educated. And we have this part where we have, when it comes to what I looked at was there was a meeting between Trump and Zelensky, and it starts very neutrally. And then in the aftermath, you have a lot of framing, you have a lot of one-directional news coverage. And it was sort of, well, how dare we, think of peace? Of course, we want peace. Yeah, we always have to say, of course, we want peace. And then in this but, you have the whole package of Russia is the aggressor. It doesn't want peace. It's still killing people. Then you have these heart-wrecking, these moving images of civilians who are being killed, of buildings who are being destroyed. But it's all the Russians who are doing this. Then you have experts who say, well, the demands of Russia in these peace negotiations, they are exaggerated and they want way too much, and it's an insolence, and no one could ever agree to their terms. And so we have to keep sending weapons to Ukraine. We have to keep fighting. And then you start to realize, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too long on this answer, but that is what really moved me. And what I understood was that you have to realize that the news coverage cannot be considered isolated from what is going on the geopolitical landscape. So you have to take into account the geopolitical landscape. And if you look at what is going on at the moment, I mean, in this Ukraine conflict, you have a couple of actors who are more or less, you could say, rational. You have Russia, which is acting more or less rationally because the Russians say, okay, we have NATO expansion eastwards, and we have to draw a red line somewhere. And it's always been clear that for the Russians, a possible NATO membership of Ukraine is a red line because, then you have possible missile systems and soldiers, etc., very close to their border. We know now because of news coverage of the New York Times that there were roughly a dozen CIA covert bases in Ukraine operating right at the border. So this could have been a possible reason for the war. So for the Russians, it's clear they have a red line where they say geopolitically, we can't no longer tolerate this. We had the coup d'etat 2014 in Ukraine. We know that on your channel, this has been abundantly discussed. So for the Russians, it is rational and it is in their own interests. It is brutal, it's illegal, but it's rational to say, okay, we have to stop this, we have to react, and we want to prevent Ukraine from being a possible NATO member. Then we have Ukraine, which is also acting more or less rationally because they say we are attacked and we have to defend ourselves. It's not each and every Ukrainian who says that, because we know that in Germany alone, we have 200,000 men who could fight in the war, who say, we don't want to give our lives for this madness. We just want to live. And this is absolutely understandable. So this side exists as well. But from the Ukrainian side to say, well, we want to continue, we want to defend ourselves, this is more or less rational. Whether Zelensky is a rational actor, I would hardly doubt that. But still, this part could be understood. Then we have the Americans, and they say, okay, we have tried to weaken Russia as best as we could. We have tried to isolate Russia internationally. We have, we have spent a lot of money to try and weaken Russia. And all this is understandable as well. And now they say, well, we need this pivot to Asia. Our upcoming biggest contender won't be Russia, it's going to be China. So let's get out of this conflict. We cannot win this one. And let's withdraw and let's try to, regroup our forces and be ready for the coming conflict with China. That's rational. And the only actor in this whole conflict, and that is directly reflected in what the media are telling, is Germany and is Europe. It is, from my point of view, and I know that many spectators share the same view, is that is complete madness. The Europeans are the only ones who say that what our great plan is to keep this war going because it's a war for democracy and for freedom, and we are being directly, as Germans, as Europeans, we are being directly threatened by an imperialist Russia, which just, wants to expand and wants to probably take over Berlin. That's what some German politicians say. And this is, and you say, okay, so what's your plan? Well, our plan is to continue the support of Ukraine. Really? So is that working well? Well, there's maybe 1 million, maybe more Ukrainians dead already, but we think it's going to work out. We just sent more weapons. Really? So what's your end goal? Well, our end goal is to defeat Russia. And you say, well, really? You want to defeat the biggest nuclear power on this planet? You think that's a good idea? Well, we don't know, but we're just going to keep going. So that's sort of the battle plan. And what Europeans don't realize is that in the end, if this war continues and if it possibly escalates, it's not going to be the Americans who are being destroyed. It's not going to be the mainland of the USA. It's also not going to be the mainland of Russia. But this war, all the destruction is going to take place in Europe. So it's our future which is at stake. It's our survival which is at stake. So this is also what moves me when I'm analyzing this propaganda. I don't understand what the Europeans are doing at the moment. I don't understand what the Germans are doing at the moment. In my opinion, it's gambling with one's own destruction, and the whole narrative that is being repeated over and over again, and that is sort of being hammered into the hearts and minds of the people, is that this is a war for democracy and for the defense of freedom, and this is why we have to keep fighting. And what is not being said is that this is a completely irrational point of view, which could lead to our own destruction. And this is why I say that we have to get a grip of what is going on with the fight for our hearts and minds to be able to understand what's going on geopolitically. And we desperately need a strong and loud peace movement in Europe and in Germany again. And this is sort of what motivates me, and I know it also motivates you. We need to get people to realize what is going on, and we need the strong wish for peace from the public, because still the public is in power. They don't feel it, but it's true. The military knows this. If the public says no, this madness stops, and that's what has to happen.